All right, Adam, it's practice number 3 today, and we're still not able to see, but I think Coach Durbell, for the first couple practices that we've been able to talk to him, has been really open with giving a lot of information on players, and we obviously had a chance to interview a few more guys today as well. So let's kind of talk about our impressions of things we've heard to this point, because that's all we're able to go off of. But first, your thoughts on Coach Durbell today?
Yeah, it was great. I don't know about you, it's frustrating not to be able to come in and watch on a regular basis, especially when you hear CSUs are all open, and it's kind of a mixed bag across the Pac-12. Colorado's not the only program that closes up some practices, right, or the majority of them, but there are programs across the Pac-12 where in the spring media can come out and it's much easier to do your job when that's the case. But if Karl Dorrell is going to be as open as he was today, it makes it less important, because I thought he was really open, kind of almost went position by position and kind of broke things down for us, which was great.
Yeah, and obviously, he's going to list some of the positive things more so than the negatives, but hearing names of guys, specific guys, I think helps. And he talked about several different positions. Is there anything that jumped out at you about any position group he talked about?
Well, he talked about their receiver depth is hurting this spring, and that's affecting a little bit of what they can do offensively in terms of throwing this new offense at the guys. And so he mentioned R.J. Sneed had a big day. Again, Eric Olson gets mentioned at that tight end room. I know people wanted to hear his name brought up last year, but we both talked to him, and we mentioned that in our last analysis video. He had to develop a little bit, and he's putting it together out there. Talked about the young corners. It sounds like they like the guys like Joshua Wiggins and Jason Oliver that they brought in as early enrollees. So Coach Meat he's not here anymore, and he didn't bring in blue chip guys, but the 3-star guys he brought in, based on everything we've seen and heard so far, are pretty good players. So he did not leave the cupboard bare with him going to Oregon.
And Durbell mentioned that, hey, they may not have the experience, but these guys are talented just like the previous group, and that they just got to get that experience. So you like to hear that from the cornerback position, because they need guys in that secondary to step up. And speaking of that, we talked to Trevor Woods today. I'm a guy that we saw last year make some big plays, and as you mentioned to him, his high school tape was like full of pick sixes, right? He's just had this knack for big plays in his career. Buff fans want to see him continue with that, but he's working on his man-to-man coverage, doing the other things as well. What are your thoughts on talking to him and just kind of him as a player?
Yeah, there's that playmaking gene, right, that you really can't coach into guys. And there's some guys that are really good players out here in the practice fields. They go into Folsom Field, and it's not the same player.
Yeah.
And Trevor Woods, I know it was only a couple plays, but as a true freshman, he makes a couple of the biggest plays all year. PBU against Oregon State, and obviously the scoop and score in the Arizona game. So that's clear. Now, he also admitted that coverage is an aspect of his game that he needs to improve on. And I don't think you're going to see a finished product with Trevor Woods out there this year. There might be a couple games where he gives up a play here or there, but there's not a huge drop-off. I don't expect personally from Mark Perry to him. The question is, depth at safety, because Isaiah Lewis and Trevor Woods are now kind of, you wouldn't even really say established, because Trevor Woods hasn't been a starter yet, but you worry about the depth there a little bit. He did say Oki Salavea is playing safety, so that experiment with him at quarterback didn't last very long.
Yeah, I was going to mention there was 2 guys that coming into fall camp you look at as being on that quarterback chart, depth chart, that are now playing safety. It's not only Oki, but Jordan Wolverton, who's a walk-on, but a talented athlete from Durango High School that he's working out at safety. So you got a couple quarterbacks. We saw that with Sam Noyer in the past. I think this is a little different. These seem like they might be a little bit more permanent moves.
They can hit like Sam Noyer, though. They'll be okay.
That's right.
But,
right.
I mean, we all expected Oki Salavea to end up at safety, I think, at some point.
And I think Oki probably expected that as well. I mean, and Oki, when I've talked to him, is the type of player that he's like, hey, wherever you want me to play, just let me play some football. So you and I both talked to some offensive linemen today. You got Casey Roddick, I got Austin Johnson. So kind of different perspectives as far as experience. Casey's very experienced. Austin's had a rough go of it, but what were your impressions talking to Casey today? I chatted with him at Blake Street Tavern, so I know his mindset coming into camp, in the spring. What was your thoughts today?
Well, we're 3 days into spring ball, and I've already got a front runner. We get to vote every year on best interview on the team, and I actually thought about him for a second last year. I went with Brady Russell, and Brady's still on the team, so maybe he'll win it. But Casey Roddick is a great interview and very forthcoming, and he didn't have a perfect season last year. No one on that O-line did.
Yeah.
But the guy had no spring ball and no summer workouts. He was not cleared until they kicked off camp. And I said, what could you do during that time? And he said nothing. For 7 months, he was sedentary. So the fact that he even won a starting job last year shows you that he's got a pretty high ceiling. And he looks leaner. Carl Durbell mentioned Casey Roddick, unprompted, brought him up and said that he looks like a different player. He has toyed with the idea of doing some center stuff, but it does sound like he is going to be at guard again with Austin Johnson, Noah Fenske, and Carson Lee as your guys at center.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw him at Blake Street Tavern, that was the first thing I said to Casey was, you look leaner. He's the same weight, but it's leaner. He's made that, more muscle as opposed to that baby fat that I'm still trying to get rid of. But I talked to Austin Johnson, who I can't believe he's in his 4th year. He's coming into his 4th season with CU. Hasn't played a lot. He's been through a whole lot. I mean, he had obviously the Achilles injury that wiped out his whole 2020 season. He had some bone issues in his heels that caused the Achilles, that caused him to miss spring last year. So this is really his first off season. He was telling me, Adam, that this is the best he's felt since he's been at CU, and the first time he's really felt like he's ready to play and like he's kind of in shape and ready to go. And I think a healthy Austin Johnson makes this competition pretty interesting.
Might be the front runner there. Since Austin Johnson got here, we've heard positive things. The thing has always been that injury issue. That he just hasn't been healthy here.
Yeah.
And you come back from an Achilles, and you see so many times guys will end up injuring something else because you're not even thinking about it, but you're compensating. And finally, hopefully for him and for this team, he can stay healthy, because I think, like again, we've heard all along that he's going to be a really good player. It's hard to get better or play when you're not healthy, and that's been the bottom line with him.
Well, obviously they need a new center with Colby Purcell moving on. Noah Fenske, Austin Johnson are the two taking those snaps, Carl said, and Carson Lee more guard right now. So that was kind of interesting. But it sounds like it's kind of Noah and Austin right now. I'm looking forward to seeing what Austin does. Not that I'm not looking forward to Noah as well, but Austin, I got a chance to meet him in high school. He's been through so much that I'm just happy to see him healthy and really happy. He looks like he's ready to go.
Best nickname on the team, if folks out there don't know, he's known as Big Salsa. So
and as I started the interview, Kyle Devan was walking by and screamed very loudly, "Big Salsa!" So there's already a pretty good rapport with these guys and Devan. There's a big difference there. So lots of positivity. We expected that early in camp. It's spring ball, but Carl Durbell has been open to us, and lots of player interviews. So that wraps up the first week of spring ball, Adam, and we'll be back next week.